Hi everyone, Julia is here. I'm glad to see my channel here for this approach. And the theme of today's video will be Loftus Hall. So let's begin. I think you know that one of the most inhabited countries is Ireland. Local residents protect haunted castles, mills, swamps, and the other places where supernature appears. And with great pleasure, residents tell all kinds of mystical stories, and I think with no less pleasure you will like stories about anomalous places and about inhabitants that inhabit them. Today we will pay our humble attention to the not at all modest Loftus Hall, the most famous haunted house in Ireland. According to the local legends, a ghost appeared in this house after visited the devil himself. By the way, almost any house built 150 years ago evokes tempting thoughts of ghosts. Of course, if it has not been restored beyond recognition. But a special pleasure is to visit or at least look photographs of this house that is definitely haunted. Loftus Hall, one of those. Even if, according to the locals, there were no ghosts, it would be worth inventing them. The atmosphere of gloomy house, located on the wind-blown and wave-washed Hook Peninsula in the Irish county Wexford, encourages this.
The first to build on the lands of Hook was the Norman knight Raymond le Gros, also known as Raymond the Fat. His castle on the site of today's estate appeared in 1171. Over time, the Norman Raymond became the Irish Redmond. He fought off Viking and Irish attackers and founded the Worth and Trace Castle and the first lighthouse on Hook Head. The castle, built by the knight, stood for 2 centuries until in 1350 Redmond's descendants built a new house in its place. It's interesting that they were building right during the Black Death, a plague pandemic that arrived in Ireland by ship from Bristol a year early. The new house was named Redmond Hall. 3 centuries later, in 1650, the house became the site of one of the fiercest sieges of the Irish Rebellion. The owner of the house, 68-year-old Alexander Redmond, with his 2 sons, a couple of local activists, and a tailor who happened to be in the house at the wrong time, barricaded themselves and for several days bravely repelled the attack of almost 90 Englishmen. In fairness, most of these Englishmen crawled into neighboring villages, indulging in robbery and violence instead of laying siege to an impregnable house. The attack was repulsed with the help of Irish forces who arrived in time and attacked the British under the cover of thick fog that had descended on the Hook Peninsula in time. According to local chronicles, Alexander repelled several more attacks. When the British finally conquered Ireland in general and Redmond Hall in particular, Cromwell even allowed Alexander to die peacefully in his own home for his courage. Well, after Redmond's death, his relatives were evicted from the house, and soon the house was sold to an English family named Loftus, who lived nearby. Subsequently, the Redmonds tried more than once to sue Loftus Hall, but to no avail. But as compensation, they were given lands in the neighborhood. The Loftuses moved quickly out the court stairs. If in the 18th century the head of the family was called Baron Loftus of Loftus Hall, then already in 19th the title of Marquis of Ely was created specifically for the Loftuses. In fact, it was the 4th Marquis of Ely who gave Loftus Hall its modern look. the Marquis started a major renovation in the second half of the 19th century. He really hoped that Queen Victoria would come to visit. After all, the Marquis's mother was her maid of honor. The Queen never arrived, but the fourth Marquis of Ely became the owner of a luxurious house with such amenities as unprecedented at that time, such as flush toilets, and, alas, the owner of few debts. Soon the house had to be sold, and its wanderings began among different owners.
In 1917, the house was transferred to the monastic order of the Sister of Providence and became orphanage and schools for girls. As it turned out, shortly before a Catholic orphanage turned into the hotel, its last inhabitant was suddenly found 1,000 kilometers in Cape Hook in France. According to her statements, the house moved her there. In 1983, the house was turned into a hotel, which was run by Ken Michel Devereaux. The hotel fell into disrepair in 1990s.
Numerous troubles haunted the few hotel guests, from incomprehensible visions to sabotage with the burning of personal belongings and entire rooms. Most likely, the insurance companies eventually refused the owners of the bad house, and it fell into disrepair.
In 2011, the house was taken over by Shane and Aidan Quigley, who opened Loftus Hall to the public in 2012, with tours of haunted house and completely restored wild gardens. By the way, Loftus Hall staircase is a cult place, sister of the one that rests on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. However, in 2020, it became known that the house was again put up for sale. Moreover, Quigley emphasized that they will not choose the new owner, but the house will choose him, and here's why. It's time for mysticism. The story about how devil sailed to Loftus Hall and what happened after his visit arose back to the 19th century, and it sounds like this.
On a cold, rainy night, a dark-robed rider rode up to Loftus Hall on a dark horseman. The horsemen say that his ship was caught in a storm and he was forced to land in a nearby bay. The Loftuses were away. A family of their distant relatives, the Tottenhams, lived in the house. They sheltered the horseman and offered him shelter and bread. The Tottenham's daughter, young Anna, immediately fell in love with a mysterious stranger. A couple of days later, in the evening, everyone sat down to play cards. During the game, Anna dropped a card and, bending down to pick it up, saw that the stranger had cloven hoofs instead of legs. The stranger realized that he had been discovered. He immediately flew up, surrounded by devilish flames, and, as expected, made a huge hole in the roof. It would seem that the devil has been cast out. They can move on with his lives. But Anna, after the disappearance of the stranger, became not herself. She was going crazy by leaps and bounds. The family, frightened by this development, looked the girl in her favorite sewing room. Anna sat there, almost motionless, clasping her knees with her hands, and soon died. According to another version of the legend, before her death she managed to give birth to a child. That is, during the 2 days she was in the house, the devil did not waste time. Anna was not buried in an ordinary coffin. They could not straighten her up, and buried her in a sitting position, in which she spent her last month's life. Since then, according to numerous testimonies from guests and owners of the house, the ghost of the girl has been walking around the house. Most likely, the spirits follow their tormentors, or the tormentors cannot leave the mortal world as a result of their atrocities.
The house itself became a place of attraction for lovers of everything paranormal and creepy. Excursions used to be held at Loftus Hall, and they were so interesting. For example, mysterious disappearance part of the group, as well as scenes with the last inhabitants of the house, but they no longer held. After all, new owner planned to turn the house back into a luxury resort hotel 40 years later. We'll find what will come of it soon. If you're interested, I recommend you watching 2017 Gothic horror movie The Lodgers. The movie filmed entirely in the luxury and eerie at Loftus Hall and received excellent review from critics. By the way, subscribe to my channel, mark the bell in order not to miss new release, and push the button if you like this video. Move on.
As of this soon-to-be fading year, the scaffolding around the majestic building has already been removed, revealing the lime-plastered facade of the historic property. Extensive work is nearing completion, both on the exterior of the mansion, including all of its 97 windows, as well as on the interior. The Quigley sold the house to Press Up Group for €2.5 million, and this is surprising because the lands and estate almost never passed to a new owner through purchase. The hotel, under the new name Ladyville House, plans 22 luxurious bedrooms, 5 of which will have magnificent 180-degree sea views on both sides of the peninsula. Greenhouses in the vegetable gardens, where vegetables and fruits will be grown for the wood-paneled kitchen. The 180-seat restaurant, located on the site of the previous restaurant in extension to the building, will feature a barrel-shaped ceiling made from reclaimed timber from Belfast, as well as an impressive fireplace which will add to the historic ambience of the building. Island bar with polished concrete surface, terrace with 120 seats, open pool, and cozy bar with snacks.
New owner hope remains that after restoration and transformation into a luxury hotel, it will not take away guests, and Ladyville House will become one of the favorite places where you can stay comfortably during a trip to Oxford. However, modern cinematography with a variety of films tell us one thing: this is precisely
impossible. Ha 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 ha.
Well, I said so much, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about. See you next thematic video.